And you are here on CMajor before the show. I am walking up the stairs and I'm getting ready to go to my piano because I'm going to do some playing tonight because I really want you to hear what ninth chords sound like. And then I'm going to go downstairs and jump on the computer so I can do a little bit of a search with you with some things that we are going to take a look at online. So welcome to tonight's show. It's great to be here with you. Thank you so very much. I'm excited about tonight's podcast episode because we are talking about ninth chords. And I was thinking about how would I describe ninth chords? It's all about the ninths. Nail-biting ninth chords. Nail-biting, colorful ninth chords. There's so many things you can say about ninth chords. But I'm going to let you make up your mind. And you can decide for yourself. How would you describe ninth chords? And I'm sitting here with a lot of information in front of me, so bear with me because it's just me and the piano right now. So you may hear a little bit of clicking because I don't have it connected to my MIDI device tonight, so I can use my modeling piano sound. And by the way, I did find something online. I'm just playing some chords as I talk with you. I found something online that was really, really interesting. And it said that somebody recorded a classical piano album. And they used Steinway D. I think it was a Steinway sound. And I just thought about this interview that I did a few years back where we were really kind of almost in a debate of whether or not that was considered cheating. If you use a MIDI keyboard and you use it just to capture the movements of the piece and then you change the sound so that it sounds exactly like you wanted it to sound, is that the cheaty way of recording piano? I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic. So we won't talk about that in full tonight, but I think I would like to talk about that sometime in the future just to get your point of view. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm excited about tonight's podcast episode. We're talking about ninth chords. It's all about the ninths, nail-biting, colorful ninth chords. That's this 99th episode of CMajor before the show. So before, on the episode, on our last episode, we talked about 7 chords. And then in the past, we've just been talking about chords because I really believe, deep down in my heart, I really believe that chords are the way to go when it comes to teaching adults to play the piano. And I've singled out the market that I've been able to test this on the most. At first, it started out being grandparents and great-grandparents, believe it or not. And then as I began to do more personalized, customized teaching, I found out it was really parents that needed this. And the reason why is because I think their dreams have pretty much gone out the window. Now, this is all opinion, okay? It's all opinion. There's going to be some laughter as we go along tonight because I really like to keep the mood light over here. I really believe I'm a huge fan of comedy, first of all, and I really believe you have to say things with tongue in cheek and just really keep it light and keep it moving. But it just seems to me that a lot of the parents that I work with, they have this dream, and I won't say it was a forgotten dream. I won't say that it was a pipe dream. I'm not going to be negative about that. But what I'm going to say is that in my experience over the years, and this has been off and on, I have not yet been able to successfully, on my own, find a way to independently teach piano lessons from morning to night. But that is a goal of mine. That's a dream of mine. So thank you. Thank you so much. I would love to do that. As much as I love performing, as much as I love working with other musicians and playing in bands and rehearsing and all of that, I really just love the personalized, customized, one-on-one teaching that I get to do with my private piano students. And if I could do that from 10 a.m. to midnight, I would do it. So I am working on that. I'm not going to give up on my dream. Lady Gaga, thank you for your inspiration. She said that in her Oscar speech this past week. Don't give up on your dream. So you may have wondered what it will take to play more than 3 or 4 notes at a time. So last week we did play 7 chords, okay? But tonight we're going to play 9 chords, and then I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how I've used 9 chords in my own personal playing. So even if I don't play the actual song, I may play part of the song just to show you how I would substitute with a 9th chord or just throw one in. So I hope you'll stick with me. For that. So that's what we're talking about in tonight's episode. But before we get down to business with the ninths, I really want to give some major shout-outs. That's what you're here for tonight, because if you read the description or if you're reading it, and we are live here on Spreaker, then you know that I'm giving some major shout-outs. So major shout-outs, lots of applause, lots of cheers for Jessica Gibson. Yes, and that's Jessica Gibson, just like the guitar, she told me. So she's a professional trumpeter. If you have a chance, listen to our 98th episode, which I did post this afternoon, and just listen to it. It's only 18 minutes long. I'm sure you could find the time to carve out 18 minutes of your time just to hear what she has to say, hear what she's doing at the piano. She's doing some exciting things. She's a college student. She's here in the greater New York City area. A fabulous, fabulous professional trumpet player in her own right, and she's really doing it big when it comes to piano. So big shout out to her. Big shout out to ACE Education in New Jersey, because they're all about helping young people get the education they deserve. So shout out to ACE today. And I have another big shout out. Shout out to Smash Studios in New York, zip code 10018. So I had the opportunity to speak with someone over there at Smash. They are I guess we would call it a room manager or studio manager. Not sure what their title is, but super nice and just super informative about the lesson space they've just carved out for teachers to use over there. So Smash Studios in New York, I know I'm giving them a little bit of a plug right now, but I think that's great. I haven't really heard of anyone that's really advertised to that point saying we have space for you to give lessons. And this is in addition to their own programs that they have for youth and adults, I believe. And so I've worked with studios in the past in New York who would say, hey, if you want to give a lesson here, this is the rate, this is what we'll do for you. And feel free to come in and teach if you'd like to, but just don't use the space for rehearsing. Don't do a bait and switch for us. And I think that's fair. But to say we actually have space for teachers to use, I think there are a lot of people out there who are trying to teach on their off season. Maybe you're not on tour. Maybe you're not performing as much as you'd like. And maybe you are somehow putting together another plan for how you're going to get your music out there and you need something to do. In the meantime, definitely check out this space. So big shout out to Smash Studios. And the next shout out I have is kind of a unique shout out. I haven't really done a shout out like this, but I told my student today I was going to do it. I told him and I told his parent. I said, look, I'm going to give a shout out on my podcast. And this student is such a huge fan of Miss Katy Perry. And he was trying to find inspiration for singing and playing the piano at the same time. And he's such a huge fan of Katy Perry. He just thought, wouldn't it be nice to see her do the same thing on her own song? He really wanted to see that modeled for him. And I said, oh, I'll just give her a call. And he said, you can? You will? And I thought, oh boy, I really just stuck my foot in my mouth because I have no way of getting in touch with Katy Perry by phone. But I can give a shout out on my podcast. So I promised that I would do that. And he said he would be so inspired if he could see her play the piano and sing at the same time, which is what he's aiming to do. So really, it's a shout out for the student for having that type of that will to do it, and at the same time that interest, and he's doing great in his piano lessons. So shout out to Katy Perry via my piano student who wants to see her play the piano and sing at the same time. I think that's great. And the song that he's working on is Roar. And I believe that's another song that she sings called Firework. I'm going to have to listen to that. Now, I do have other students that are playing her music in piano lessons. They've requested it. And I'm working on, with a couple of students, 2 different versions of Roar at the moment. So I'm just inspired by my students wanting to do the music that they like to do. So I think parents also want to see their children be happy. So it's a different time we live in. We live in the 21st century where everybody has so many options that you're not tied down to forcing yourself to be disciplined in any way. You really are in front of, and you have in front of you, so many options for doing what it is that you want to do, and using high tech to do it, using technology of any sort to do it and to get it done. And so I just think that it's fun to hear what my students request, and it's also fun to hear what the parents want to see their child do when it comes to piano lessons. And so in the same breath, I also want to say that I am very excited about the prospect of teaching piano lessons to those who are well known, let me say it that way. So I'm definitely not a person that chases famous people or celebrities, although I enjoy taking selfies with them. But I do wonder from time to time, do they have someone to teach them piano lessons? If so, who is that? Do celebrities teach other celebrities to play the piano, or do celebrities rely on just everyday piano teachers to teach them piano? And the example I like to mention is the one where I saw Regis on TV taking piano lessons and then showing his progress, which I found to be very inspirational. So that's the one example that I have. But if I had my wish for teaching piano lessons, me personally, I said this to one of my students. Actually, it was Jess, come to think of it, because she's a professional trumpet player. And I thought, I wonder what it would be like to give Wynton Marsalis a piano lesson, even though he already has a father that plays piano and teaches piano, one of my idols, personal idols for piano playing. But I wonder what it would like to be in a position to sit down with him and show him a few things on the piano. And she said, I would definitely want to sit on that lesson. So you never know. Something like that may happen. Also, I do want to say that other student that wants to see Katy Perry also has another wish as well. I'm not going to mention it right now, but I will mention it later on another upcoming broadcast. So that's a tease for you, because he has some other wishes too. So stick around, because I'm going to have more shout outs a little bit later on in today's episode. But let's go ahead and get to those 9th chords. So what I'm going to do now is just play the basics. So far you've heard me demonstrate in the past how to play a C triad and then play it, expand it, F, you're a student of mine, I will show you exactly how to place your hands on the piano to play it that way. And of course, there are other ways to play it. So I've also brought, and if you want to go ahead and pull out this resource, the original piano chord finder, I've brought that along with me. And feel free to take a look at this, because they also give suggestive voicings, which I'm not really doing right now at this moment. But I am going to open this book, and just so you can hear the way that they've laid out the chords there. So I just caution you that there may be some information that I'm giving you that's ahead of the curve, so to speak, is ahead of where we are. But just to give you an example, oh, and I want to say this too. I found out today that I was being described in marketing materials as a jazz pianist, and I thought, wow, that is amazing, because if I went to any jazz venue and tried to play jazz, they would laugh me off the stage, because my strong suit really is classical. And, even though, that's more of my thing. That's more of my thing. I really like playing classical music. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's the way I express myself best. But you know what? I'm going to take the jazz challenge. I really am going to take the jazz challenge. Give me an applause for that. So while I'm thinking about it, the jazz chord, I have this information. I happen to have this information in front of me. So if you're getting an introduction to blues, to jazz, to improv, there are 4 easy steps in learning to play blues and jazz. So blue notes would be step 1. The jazz sound begins by playing blue notes. A blue note is a lowered third, a fifth, or a seventh of a scale or a chord. So you can start by using a lower seventh, and so in the key of C, that would be B flat. In the key of F, that would be E flat, and in the key of G, that would be F, okay? And then you heard the way that I played chords. I played them in a full position just now, but the jazzy way of playing chords, and that would be the second step, the jazz chord. Create a jazz chord sound by using a lowered seventh blue note, and then you just play each chord several times. Okay, so tonight you're going to hear me demonstrate in a way that I normally would not demonstrate to my students, but I'm going to do it just for you, just because you're tuning in. So here we go. The root is here, okay, and this is the rest, and this is the C seventh chord. So I'm just playing this chord several times. You may even call it like a vamp or something. Now I'm going to go to an F7 chord where I'm using F as the root. Okay. And now I'm going to go to a G7 chord. And then I'm going to go back to a C7 chord. Okay, so all I did was just to spell it out for you, because I know you're not reading notes on the staff. And if you are interested in reading music and writing down music, see us please over at the CMajor radio show. That's where we do that type of thing over there. And I describe how I'm writing it on the grand staff as we are talking about it. But over here, I'm going to talk more in text notation, letter form, however you want to say it. And so I'm calling out C as the root, followed by B flat, followed by an E. Okay, so that really does have to do with the way I'm voicing the chord. Now F, the root, A, and then E flat for the F7 chord, and then G in the bass, followed by a B, followed by an F for a G7 chord, and then a C, followed by B flat, followed by an E, going back to the C7 chord. So, and then they give you like an example here. So I'm not going to embarrass myself by playing this example, because it requires the thing that I need to work on the most. Rhythms in jazz are so important. They are what make jazz swing. So C major needs to learn a little bit more about swing, a little bit more about funk as well, so I can really feel it, because it requires more of a loose or a jazz feel, I believe. So that's something I need to practice on, and really start to experiment with that loose or that jazz feel. And I know that I've seen this on YouTube. You've already sent me the videos. Thank you so much, YouTube, and others out there who have this down pat, but it's something that I'm going to challenge myself to work on. But let's get to the ninth chords. And then while I have this book open, I might just turn to a page that gives me examples for ninths, or I might just come back to ninths at another time, because what we're doing is going through basically a 12-week semester-long course of chords here in the Piano for Parents series. And I am still talking to that market parent. So even if you aren't a parent, don't feel like I'm excluding you. You may be a parent one day. Let's say if you're young and you're in college and you have plans for the future to go in that direction, then you may just decide to brush up on your piano skills by focusing on chords the next time around. Who knows what it is, but this is how we're packaging it. We're saying 12 weeks, and then we're going to take 1 week off, do something else totally different on the podcast, and then come back for another 12 weeks. What I haven't decided to do is if I'm going to repeat the same information and then just embellish it a little bit, add other examples, because the way I run this podcast, we have so many stories to tell. I was mentoring someone this week and saying, I use a lot of indirect speech in my podcast because I do like to tell stories. I like to tell what happened in the words of others. And at the same time, I use direct speech when I'm talking about my own situation. But I often talk with parents, I often talk with students. And so we get into conversations where funny things happen. Funny things are said, and I just like to share that type of thing here on the podcast. So I try to keep it friendly, I try to keep it light, and so you will listen and you'll enjoy what you hear. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is go back to the way I was playing 7 chords in the beginning. This is full position. This is a C7 chord and what I call expanded, or you could say full position. And now what I'm going to do is release this top C. I'm playing it for you right now. And then I'm going to play a D instead, and that's my ninth. Okay, so that's one note at a time, if you can hear what I'm doing. Okay, so if you're the person that learns to play by ear, you should be able to follow this. Now I'm going to do the same thing with an F chord, F, so you can hear how it's expanded, that 7th chord, and then 9th chord. So if you're able to follow me. See, same thing with the G, G 7th chord, but this time I'm going to release the top G, and then. So what does that sound like to you so far? How would you describe that sound? Would you really describe it as colorful? And so in the tease of today's description, I also said nail-biting ninths, is because I was teasing earlier with Jessica about the nails that she decided to put on. And I had that dilemma myself. I have to share that with you. A few years ago, I just thought, it would be so nice if I could make my nails look nicer, and I regretted it the moment I did it because I couldn't play a thing. I couldn't play any Mozart. I couldn't practice. And it looked pretty, but the other thing that was upsetting when I had them removed 2 days later, that there were all these dents in my nails, and I had to wait for the nail to grow out so that the dents would disappear. And I thought, who does this to their nails? But on the other side of things, it would look so great to be cool and have like the newest razor sharp nail tips. That's what's in today. But as a serious person of piano, I can't imagine doing that and then learning how to play with that. I just really can't. But if that changes and I come up with a way to do it, you'll be the first to know. So again, I just have to laugh at myself for wanting to do that. But playing 9 chords. Okay. Nail biting, colorful, however you want to say it. I don't think you can say nasty. I don't think you can say they sound nasty. They don't have a nasty sound at all. And do they sound nice? Maybe I could have used the word nice. Nail-biting, colorful, nice ninth chords. Think about how you would describe ninth chords compared to how you would describe seventh chords. And think about how you want to play ninth chords. Okay, let's go to D. Okay, so we have a D chord. Okay, now I'm going to play the 7. Okay, now I'm going to release the... Okay, so I'm going to show you in a minute how I use that. So basically I went from a D9 to a G7 chord to a C chord, which I'm sure somewhere somebody has written that down. They have a description for that, how you would do that. But you can use that in the case of playing Amazing Grace was now I see. That's what it is. Okay, so we'll come back to that example in a moment. And now I just want to go to my piano chord finder book. Are you with me so far? Hopefully you are. Hopefully you're hanging in there with me. And CMajor is doing her homework right now. And I do talk about myself in third person. It's just a fun thing to do. Okay, now what I like about this book again is that they give it to you in the form of dots and triangles and other symbols. So if you don't read music, you can use this book. But just playing the right hand part, you would have a C followed by a C augmented, followed by a C7 chord, followed by a C major 7 chord, followed by a C with a flat 9, followed by a ninth chord. Okay, so this just reminds me of my ear training teacher in college and what he would do. He would literally stand at the piano, a big grand piano in the center of the choir room. He stood the entire time. And he would just be playing chords just like that. He'd say, you hear that? You hear that? That's a C ninth chord. You hear that? And then he would start talking in formulas, 1, 4, 5, 7, and so forth, and really expected you to hear what was going on. And we're all sitting on the risers, and we're just looking at him, and nobody's really getting what he's saying at all. But, you know, looking back on that, I wish I had paid attention a little bit more, because maybe if I had, I might have ended up being a jazz musician like he was, and he was one of the greats. So let's just play now. I'm going to turn this over here, and let's see. Okay, so I'm really going to play it how it's voiced in this book. You know, the C augmented. Now you're going to go to a C7 chord, then a C major 7 chord, and then a C with a flat ninth, and then a C ninth chord. So just now when I heard this, the first thing I thought about was Chopin. So I know you may say Chopin. Some people will even say Chopin, but it's Chopin. That's really how you say it, or Chopin, or Chopin, if you want to pronounce the N with a hard N. But when I heard that C with the flat ninth, it just reminds you of sounds that you've heard before. So over the years, I've become a better listener, so that if I'm sitting in a rehearsal and I hear a chord that the orchestra plays, and then I just think, wow, that was really great, and then I can name the chord or follow a little bit more of the sequence of the music, even when it's contemporary music. So your listening can evolve over time. Now, I haven't really done much with the minor chord tonight, so let me go ahead and just play that example. So I have a C minor chord followed by a C minor 7 chord. Now I'm going to do a C minor chord with a major 7th. Now I'm going to do a C diminished 7th, and then a C half diminished 7th, and now I'm going to do a C minor 9th. Okay, so let me just go ahead. What I'm going to do now is just play the sequence of all of that. And I'm really just going to stick with C, and then I'm going to take myself back downstairs and then just continue talking with you further and start my music bed like I usually have going on in the podcast. And then we're going to continue tonight's episode. But I'm going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 chords in a row. And what I encourage you to do is just to get this book and then really just close your eyes if you can and just play these chords. So there's a way to do it, even if you're not reading it on the staff. I'm reading on the grand staff right now. But if you don't read music, don't be afraid of this book. Just get it, because everything is in the form of dots and other symbols to help you know where to place your hands on the piano. And then at the same time, as usual, as I always say, get with a music professional, someone who can help you to know how to place your hands on the piano and to get the sound that you are looking to get. Okay, so here we go. This is the sequence. Okay, so did you get all of that? I was basically playing everything as a fast whole note and trying to count to 4 as quickly as possible, and then just letting each chord have its own sound. And in the future we may do this again, because it really does take time for your ear to just evolve to the point of knowing exactly what you're hearing, whether to call it by letter name, whether to call it something else. And with music theory, there's always some argument when it comes to analysis of what you just played. So we're going to get more into that, because I have something to say about the prelude that we were talking about earlier in Jess's episode. And we had the Chopin Prelude, E minor, Opus 28, number 4. And I stumbled up on a lead sheet. So when I go back downstairs, I'm going to look up that lead sheet again on the computer and see if we can reference that. But I'm very excited about looking at some of the chords in that piece. Very excited about looking at some of the chords in that piece. So I'll not be playing any longer on the piano. It's that one thing I do want to just share with you really, really quickly. And I did this before in a show in Brooklyn. I think one reason why someone may have referred to me as a jazz pianist, maybe they heard me playing the Charlie Brown song or talking about the Charlie Brown song. You know, maybe they had me somehow associated with that song. Maybe I've talked about it in the past, and that's one of the first songs I learned to play on the piano. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to this challenge. So I hope you'll stick with me, and I will definitely make it part of the podcast. And who knows, I may even decide to put together another podcast, CMajor rehearses or CMajor practices, and then it's all about just staying with me online on a podcast while I practice and I brush up on my piano skills live. So here we go. What I'm going to do now is take myself back downstairs so that I can be with you on the computer. We're going to take a brief interlude, a brief break with a musical interlude, and I'm going to grab some water, and then I'm going to come back on and talk with you further about the topics that we have for tonight's episode. Now, I did say something about in the last episode that I wanted to highlight the end of Black History Month, so we'll be doing that a little bit later, but I will share with you the rundown of the rest of tonight's show. So let's go back over here to the computer and get the music started again. Thank you for staying with me. Did you enjoy what you heard so far? thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And so what I'm doing now is pulling up some information on the computer. I'm going to take a quick music break, and then I'll be back with you in a few moments. You are here on C Major Before the Show, and I'm your host, CMajor Porter. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll return in just a few moments. And you are here on C Major Before the Show. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's a great pleasure to be with you as we talk about ninth chords. We haven't decided whether or not to call ninth chords nice or something else. If you think they're colorful, you may use that word, but it really is up to you to decide how you want to describe ninth chords and how you're going to be using them in your piano playing. What I want to do now is just to give a little bit more shout outs to my adult students, especially the ones who are learning to play by chords and by ear, and they're thinking about going into other methods of learning to play the piano. And one adult student in particular is very excited about learning to play rhythms on the piano. Now, he's only been playing for a few weeks, but if you didn't know it, you would think he'd been playing for much more than that. So, shout out to that student. And now I just want to give a general shout out because here in the greater New York City area, we are going through some very interesting weather conditions at the moment. So sometimes I put up the hashtag CMajor weather because it's something that I like to talk about as much as I like to talk about coffee and music making. I just want to say shout out to the greater New York City area as you're going through these weather conditions, and good luck in the snow to everyone. Yeah, just some mild shout outs. So we're just trying to figure out if the groundhog was playing tricks on us. That's basically it. Puxatawny Phil went back in the hole. He saw his shadow, and then he just decided to change his decision on whether or not we're going to have an early spring. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my history book, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the history of the women composers that I mentioned in the last podcast episode. So we are here at the end of Black History Month. It's the beginning of March. It's March 2nd. I think I might have said it was March 1st, but the 1st of March, more or less. But it's March 2nd is today's date, 2018. And I'm just going to take a moment just to pick up this history book. And in the past, I did quote it. I quoted the title of the book, and also just gave some quotes from the book itself. So let's see where we are. And by the way, New York's classical station, they did a great thing with all of the history that they shared for last month. I thought it was really great. I won't shout them out just yet, but in the future I think I will shout them out. And I hope to visit the green space at some point so I can meet some of these broadcasters and the great work that they do. So all it says here is that the award-winning composers included Florence Price, and they're just giving her a distinction as a composer as she was, and talking about the diploma she received in piano and organ from the New England Conservatory. They gave the name of her teachers, and they say that she began composing as a child and had published small pieces even before entering their conservatory. And then she had a brief teaching career of her own, and they gave the name of the colleges where she taught, and then they talk about where she settled. And it just seems that she really composed throughout her life. I have not seen a score yet of Florence Price's music, but I hope that I can see that. And I'm wondering where something like that might be kept. But it wasn't music that we studied in college. And I'm trying to even remember if it was mentioned in our music history classes. Interesting. Now let's take a look at Miss Jessie. And there's a hair product on the market called Miss Jessie, but I don't think it's named after this person. It's a really good book. It really tries to cover a lot. I'm looking through the index. I'm seeing Ice Cube, Ice-T, the Sugar Hill Gang. I'm seeing so many historical references here. Okay, so Eva Jessie. Let's go there for a moment. I'm just going to read a little bit Okay, so she was considered a pioneer, especially among women choral conductors. So if you have a chance to, just look up a little bit about her. She was called, believe it or not, in 1929, called to Hollywood to train choirs to sing. I mean, just imagine that. And she actually knew George Gershwin. He chose her as a choral director for his production of Porgy and Bess. So when you start to think about just what these women did in their lifetime and the people that they rubbed shoulders with and the different ways they were trying to get their music making out there, it's just so inspirational. So I'm just going to close out February, starting the beginning of March with that little bit of history. And then I think in the future, we may do even more. I know in the summer I said I would just do a whole entire program dedicated to women composers. I might have said that over at the CMajor radio show. I haven't done that as much as I'd like, but it's definitely something on my mind, and I just want to make sure I do it in the right, the most respectful way, because there are so many historians out there who could tell the stories so much better, and that's what they do with their careers. So it's not to dim a light on their work at all, but it's just I want to talk about it in a way that's meaningful to my listening audience, but at the same time gets my meaning across about what it means to hear those names and to hear about their work. Now, what I'm going to do is talk next about what's coming up on CMajor Before the Show podcast. We're going to be, believe it or not, I can't even believe this myself. We haven't by far had a perfect podcast at all, but it is going to be, if my counting is right, it's going to be, and I believe that it is, our 100th episode. Starting next week. So we haven't gone back to delete anything. You know, if we do go back to delete anything, I will just try to weed out some of those podcast episodes that don't belong. And I know that if you find the CMajor Before the Show podcast on Apple Music, you'll see that you can look at select episodes or check out all of the episodes. And if it means anything to delete some of those episodes, feel free to let us know on social media, because we rely on you to tell us. I did a lot of work offline before I even started the podcast, because I wanted to make sure I had someone to talk to that I know would listen. So I feel pretty good about the listening audience right now, but I still want that to grow, and I'm just trying to figure out at what point do I need to involve more professionals to help me with that, and who should that be. So that's what we're working on now here on CMajor Before the Show. Now, I promised that I was going to go online, so let me go ahead and turn my music down just a little bit. I'm going to bring it back up later. But what I want to do now is go on the internet with you really quickly. And so you're going to hear me typing. And then I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm looking, so you can look there too. Okay. Now, I'm using Safari. If I need to use Google Chrome, I will. But I like to do my searching on Safari. And the reason I'm doing this is because I didn't post anything in terms of a poll, and I said that was something that we were going to get back into. But I just want to walk with you to poll everywhere, because what I'm really supposed to be doing and what I'm aiming to do is to have you as a live audience do a poll while I'm on the podcast. So it's a live response to something that I may ask, but I realize that unless I walk you through it, that you may not do it. So let's go to Poll Everywhere together. So it's Poll, and I believe they spell it the same way that you would write it. So I'm just doing a search. Okay, and they do. Poll Everywhere, make your own poll in seconds. So it's live interactive audience participation. And I'm just going to take a look at my polls. So I have the basic plan, which is free, of course. 4 activities in place. So far, I've posted, do you currently take piano lessons online? Then, after that, how would you prefer to learn to play the piano? Which would you consider good music making and wellness reasons for playing the piano? And what sort of music do you listen to? Okay, so there's also an app that goes along with this too. But if you go to polleverywhere.com, you can see it. And sometimes I'll post the link on social media so you can follow it there. You can actually go in and answer it. But I'm so excited about the fact that I get to use PowerPoint. I can also use Keynote or Google Slides as well. And, you know, the way that it is set up, I can just do it in the most basic form, or I can actually post pictures for you to click on. So that's very exciting. So let's just go ahead and just, since I'm on it, let me just post a poll. And then I'll post a link letting you know that I posted the poll so that you can follow that link. And I do participate in my own polls, just so you know. Okay, so it's important to know if you are an adult, if you are a parent and you're starting your musical journey, it's important to know the questions that may be on your mind if you are the would-be learner of playing by chords. So, questions like, will you really be able to play the piano? Will learning to play the piano be too hard for you? What do you think? Yes or no? And just some little background things that you may want to answer. Do you recall music classes in elementary school, for instance? And what sort of music do you listen to is more along those lines? Like, what did you grow up listening to compared to what you listen to today? Has it been consistent? And what part of music making do you take part in now? And do you tend to listen to more live music, or do you tend to listen to more recorded music? So some of these questions I've posted so far have been open-ended, where you can just say yes or no. But there are also a couple of questions where you really have to think, how would you prefer to do something? So I think what I'm going to do now is just post that question about live or recorded music. So let me go in and just do another one. Okay, so just bear with me for a moment. I'll turn the music up a little bit just so you have something else to listen to. And I'm just going to type it in and I'll tell you it's posted. I'll actually post it. Okay, so I'm clicking on where it says create. Okay, so this is where it gets fun. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the music back down. So I have a choice. I could do something multiple choices, which is what I've done before. Then there's something called word cloud. You can use that. I can do totally a survey by clickable image. And I can do more open-ended. I mean, it goes on and on. But I'm going to stick with multiple choice right now. So let me go ahead and just type it. And I'm going to make it easy. But what I hope to do in the future is do something a little bit more scientific as we go along. And also focus a little bit more on questions that have to do with health and wellness. Okay, so the first part of that question is, do you listen to music on a daily basis now? And if so, is it mostly live or recorded? Is it, and then ... And then let's go to the next place where I can put the option mostly live versus mostly recorded. Okay, and then I could just put NA, not applicable. So that's it. So I just created a poll. And when the poll is active, you can go on to pollev.com. That's what I was thinking. It may have been pollev.com, but that's for responding to the poll. It's pollev.com/CarolPorter879. So I can also choose to have a more customized name. I could have said CMajor, but I think you have to pay for that. I'm going to look into that. But I really like this website, so pollev.com/CarolPorter879, and then you can also text, and then there's something you can put in as well if you want to do it that way. But let me just go ahead and activate this and making it available to you. So now what I could do is share it. Okay, so now I have a link, and it just says use this link. So now I'm going to see if I can share it. Okay, so I just shared it on my social media. Okay, and I'm going to go back and share it somewhere else. And then if I have a chance to, what I'm doing now is sharing it on the page that I manage, which is CMajor before the show. So you know where to find that. Okay, I didn't really say anything about it, it was just posted. Okay, so hopefully you're able to find that online, and then if you have any questions, just let me know. Let me know. Okay, so thank you. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you for listening. Thank you so much. And so the Piano for Parents series continues. We're going to continue next week talking about chords in our 100th episode. And we want to tie in more topics about health and wellness benefits and highlight those. So I know that we have a little bit more of that presence online with those out there who are online publishers. They're starting to really make that more visible. I'm sure they've written about it in the past, but now it's starting to become more visible, and it's something I really, really am interested in. As much as I'm interested in high tech, as much as I'm interested in in classical music, I'm also interested in knowing the benefits. How do you feel after you've played certain things? What's a way to measure that? And I'm sure somebody's got a tech startup or some sort of research that they have going on here in the 21st century that really highlights a way to measure something like that. So I think that's great. Next week, we will talk about flat chords, something we haven't covered much here on C Major Before the Show. And so the same thing will happen over the C Major Radio Show. If you can, tune in tonight for the C Major Radio Show. I'm probably going to be on around 7:30 Eastern Time. And I'll go ahead and type in the description. We're going to be talking about ninth chords over there as well. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be on tonight. We'll see. And I am definitely not interviewing anyone tonight. So if you're hoping to get on for an interview, please email me ahead of time. Or if it is impromptu, 9 times out of 10, it'll be impromptu over here first. And then the other interview will be planned, so I have a chance to promote it and really start getting people interested in hearing what you have to say over at the C Major Radio Show. We want to be a little bit more polished over there, I think. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's a great pleasure to be with you here on a Saturday night. Thank you so much. And I do want to, before I leave you, go ahead and do that search, a quick search. Very quick. For the prelude. I think that's what I'm going to post over at C Major's classroom tonight, because the chords there, Chopin Prelude, starts off with an E minor chord and goes to F sharp, half diminished, followed by an F sharp, diminished 7th chord. But let's just see if I type in, and you can do this too. Okay, give me a moment. Okay, so turning music down again. So this just says Chopin Prelude, E minor, Opus 28, number 4, lead sheet. And then I can share this because it gives it with the chord symbol. So take a look at this and see what you think. It really is interesting. I am not seeing any 9th chords. Oh, I see one. There's a B7 with the flat 9. Okay. So, and another one with a flat 9th, a flat 13th, a sharp 9th. Okay, so in the rubato part. So, but, everybody's analysis is different. I was glad to see that too, because what I used to hear in my music theory class was that you could argue so many different points about how the chords are moving. And someone may agree with you and they may not. Okay, I'll just say check out this analysis. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to post this over at C Major Before the Show page. And if you care to like, follow, share, we're getting to a point now where we can do that. It's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for us. And if you want to support this website, you can download the PDF if they charge you. I'm not sure. I didn't take a closer look at it yet. But it's the right thing to do to support others in their work if they've taken the time to write something like this, and then they charge you like $1 or something like that. And there's also a free trial. It looks like it's something you can subscribe to. So take a look at it. Let me know what you think. Again, it's been a great pleasure to be with you tonight here on C Major Before the Show. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a great time. I've had fun with you tonight talking about night chords, and I invite you to tune in next week right here on C Major Before the Show. We will be talking about, here in our 100th episode, we will be talking about flat chords. That's next week. Have a great week. If you're in the greater New York City area, please be safe out there with all of the snow and the cold and ice and everything. And I hope to see you right here next Saturday night on C Major Before the Show. Take care.